All right, guys, we got a little panel discussion for you guys. This is a great group of tradespeople. We got some cowgirls as well, which is cool. You guys come on up. And we just want to talk to you guys primarily about like entering the workforce. This is gonna be like a leadership panel, but we're gonna get into a lot of things. It's this transition period from school to career, and we want to send you off with some words of wisdom and advice from years of experience. So that's what this panel is about. I'll just have these guys go down the line, just give a brief introduction of who you are, kind of a bit of background, and maybe what you do now.
Absolutely, yeah. So my name is Donny Farmer. I am the veteran advisor for the LazyQ Line School that's here on the ranch. My job is I select and interview veterans that have just gotten out of the military to determine if they're going to be good candidates to come through our program and get indentured into the IBW as apprentice linemen. A little bit about myself. I retired from the Marine Corps in 2016. I spent almost 20 years in the Marine Corps infantry. Went straight out of high school, straight to the Marine Corps. While I was there, I did 7 deployments, 2 to Iraq, 2 to Afghanistan. And then when I retired, I went to college for a little bit, and about 3 years ago, I found Quanta. I came through the LazyQ as a student. I went out to the Pacific Northwest as a groundman for about 9 months, and then they called me back here, and I've been doing this for about 2 years now.
My name's Kyle Seaward. I'm from Idaho. I'm a journeyman lineman. I've been in the trade for 26 years, and started out, just a farm kid from Idaho, and went to the line school up there in Meridian, and got in the trade and worked all the way through as a groundman, apprentice lineman, all the way up through the foreman, GF. And now I'm a superintendent for Summit Line Construction. I've had the privilege of being with Quanta or Summit for the last 13 years. It's a great group. It's more of a family group. They treat you. You guys have probably experienced it too already with the rodeo team, but it's just one big family, which is it's really great to be part of. I was also lucky enough to be part of the Quanta Elite. It's where there's 50,000 employees within Quanta, and then they nominated 50 of the foremen and superintendents that they felt were, kind of taking the next step above and wanting you to be able to take that leadership that you had and, get somebody that was under you and mentor them up to that level which they, nominated you for to be in that Quanta Elite. So was pretty fortunate to have a couple good guys that I worked with, but I was able to work with for a year and got them to that stage where they're running, their own projects, and they're up to that construction manager, superintendent level now too. So, but yeah, that's about it.
Welcome, guys. Name's Rob Mitchell from British Columbia, Canada. Similar story to Kyle. I've been in trade 28 years. Run through right from the bottom up, the apprenticeship program into Journeyman, eventually foreman, general foreman running crews. Specializing in energized work. Obviously, you'll see some of the stuff around the facility here, but I'm currently, last 5-6 years going on now, been an Energized advisor here at the ranch, and we're involved with a lot of the Quanta's high voltage Energized training, some of the new tool developments, and some of the work ongoing out in the field. Been through a little bit of rodeo background as well. I rodeoed for years myself, and I happened to put 3 kids through the high school rodeo in Little Briggs as well. Kind of gone through the program. My son, just 2 weeks ago, just topped out. He's a journeyman lineman as well, kind of following my steps and maybe stepped away from the rodeo because being at work's important. But yeah, love it.
Hi, I'm Jordon Briggs. I'm a world champion barrel racer, horse trainer, mother, and wife. I've been with Quanta for the past 4 years in their ambassador program, and I've learned so much about trades and this company, and it's just an honor to be a part of their family and learn this and be able to be a part of this with you guys. And just a big fan of trades and learning all different kinds of jobs that you can possibly do just to be prepared for life, whether it's rodeo or just go moving with the punches of life and knowing how to do other things. So I'm proud for you guys to be here.
There we go. And ditto to what she said, just on the roping side. So I'm Jackie Crawford, a 24-time world champion roper. Right now I still rodeo. I'm a mother to two, an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old, and a wife, and trying to make all the hats fit in a day. And been with Quanta since the beginning, and have just been so flattered to be a part of this team and see what they really do, open our eyes to what they really do behind the scenes that we never really understood. And so it's a great program, and you guys are all truly lucky to be a part of it, and I hope you take advantage of it, because I know we've been so fortunate to be a part of it.
This is so cool because it's such like a diverse group of people to get advice from today. So like highly encourage you guys to ask all these guys questions this evening or whenever you hook up with them. But I just flew into Texas from Vegas, and I was emceeing a big conference there, and I actually got to introduce the keynote speaker for the event was Tim Grover. And maybe you know Tim Grover, maybe you don't, but a bit of Tim's background was he's been responsible for a large part of the success of guys like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Serena Williams and some of these amazing athletes in the world. He is their trainer. He was like the personal trainer for MJ for the longest time before MJ finally released him to go work for Kobe before Kobe died. But Tim was saying he had this line that I just thought of, was like, he gave his description of what he felt a good leader was. And a good leader was someone who could take chaos and turn it into calm, or take chaos and turn it into order. It was like that person who could be that front person for their team. So your guys' first question, maybe Donny, we'll start with you. Brief description of what you think a good leader is.
Okay. First off, I do have to fill this out there. I do have somewhere at my mom's house a buckle for mutton busting from 1985. So I think I can be kind of part of the rodeo crowd too, a little bit. Okay, cool. They had to pull me off of that thing. I remember that. A good leader is somebody that gets people to want to follow them, not because they have to, but because they want to. You have to be able to inspire people. You have to be able to show them that you're willing to get in the trenches with them and do the hard things. How you do one thing is how you do everything, and that starts from the top and goes all the way down. So you can't expect your subordinates or the people that are underneath you to do the hard things if you're not doing those hard things as well. So for me, it was always leadership by example. Throughout my career in the Marine Corps, I was constantly getting thrown to platoons or companies that had discipline problems, because I was a drill instructor before as well too. And I never had a problem bringing those teams back online. And my number one success was two things. It was PT, which is physical training, and field day, which is where you clean up your rooms. That's it. I mean, these are infantry Marines with a diverse and very complicated task ahead of them. And, I trusted that they wanted to learn those skill sets and master them, because that's why they joined. Nobody made them do it. But what I would do to keep them on par was field day. Every once a week they'd have to clean their rooms, and I would check literally every single piece of that room to make sure that they knew what I was expecting. And then same thing with PT. Like I would go out there and put out as much as I could so that they could see that if I was doing it, then there's no excuse for them not to do it. And what that did was, when we went overseas and we got into combat, they realized that if I was going to make a really big deal about, when you open your refrigerator and it's got that insulated like piece of rubber, I mean, they knew that if I was going to check that for dust, that I was probably also going to check to make sure that their hand grenades were taped the right way, or that their weapons were clean, or that they had the right radio frequencies on hand for the next battle spaces over to us, etc. And it always comes back to that. I tell my kids that all the time. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If your truck's a mess, your office is probably a mess, which means that probably the performance that you do in that office is a mess. So, just keep that in mind. I mean, no matter what it is that you're doing, whether you're playing an intramural sport or you have a hobby, give it 100%. and that'll translate over to other things that you do. But yeah, I'm sorry, go off a tangent here, but yeah, leadership by example. You got to be able to do the work yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Just to kind of tag along with what Donnie said there, the line industry and, the military, there's a lot of similarities there. We hire a lot of military for, to come into the line trade. But I think, as far as leadership, I think you need to lead from behind. There's a lot of times where you do have to get in, if you want guys to buy into what you're teaching them and telling them what to do, you got to jump in there too in the trenches with them and be the ones, get your boots dirty and work hard. And I think that really solidifies the confidence and the trust, because that's one of the biggest things in it, as a lineman. You're going up in the air and you're dealing with whether you're, barehanding 500,000 volts or you're, rubber gloving 25,000 volts. You got to have that trust that the guy sitting next to you. And if you can't trust each other and know that, each one of you is going to be there for each other and be a leader, there's, like I said, a lot of building that trust to be able to continue to grow, together. And that leadership, I think, each one of you guys, I think already have some of those traits, being part of the Quanta team. That's nothing to take lightly. You guys should pat yourselves on the back. It's not how well you do, perform in the arena. It's, what kind of leaders you guys are inside and outside of the arena. And I think as a leader too, you got to realize that you're constantly put on that next, level, that next podium up. So it kind of keeps you grounded and makes that, it just gives you that added confidence, that everything that you're doing, you're going to be, like I said, watched. And as long as you can do the things that, people look up to and admire, I think that's where the true leadership is. And like I said, it's not being out in front of them and pulling them along. It's being behind them and being right next to them and pushing them. So
I guess this is the part where you say ditto. We all come from kind of the same background, doing the same work, and we require leadership doing what we do. Line work in general, and speaking from that just because that's our experience, it's a real hierarchy. There's the top and there's definitely the bottom. And we need leaders to push the rest of the guys through tough times. There's been big snow events, big ice storm events. I've set my kids down on Christmas Day and just said, I'll be back, because that's what we do, right? You gotta lead by example and get out there and do that. And I think my kids have watched that while we're growing up, and you guys are the same thing. We're all dealing with cowboys and ranch families. You watch your dad. Oh, yeah, we're
Just yaw for a second.
well, there, we're back at it. Yeah, you guys have all watched your mom and dads go to work and pull through tough times to get you guys where you're at now. Rodeoing's a pretty good honor was for my kids anyway. We didn't have a ton of money. Luckily, we had good jobs and kept them going down the road. But yeah, you got to get out there and push the industry we're in. And the same thing with you guys going through your cowboy careers until you get out and find what you want to do for the rest of your life. If that's not going to be it, but you got to be able to drive through the tough times, and it takes leadership and solid people to get out there and do that stuff. So.
When I was your guys' age, I was always told the hardest working person in the room, is going to win the most and deserves the most. And that's very true at your age, because I'm sure you guys can think of people that kind of jack around and don't work as hard at it as you do and practice every day, rain or shine, doesn't matter. And that's why you guys are here. Well, when you get to our level, that you'd have to kill yourself to outwork everybody, because everybody works at it so hard to the point where we have to remind ourselves that we do have a family and there's other things that exist in the world. So what I've learned over the years of leadership is when things aren't going your way, and just like I'm a barrel racer, yes, there's a mental part of it. Yes, I have to be an incredible jockey, but a lot of it is my horse, and I'll admit that every single day. And you can try to be I've tried to be a control freak for 37 years now, and I cannot control everything that happens to my horses. And so what I've learned to really appreciate with leaders is that no matter what's happening, when things aren't going your way, that you find the positive in everything. Or if my horses aren't working very good or things aren't going my way, I find the positive, okay, now I get more family time, or I get to be home more to train other horses. And so I think I like to follow leaders that are positive and will always bring out the positive in everything when you're doing good and when you're doing bad.
I think it boils down to, I mean, everybody has kind of touched, lead by example. You know, every one of these stories right here, you didn't hear any person say, well, I came on Quanta and was a leader. Every one of them started at the bottom, and they worked their way up, and they worked their way through the tougher stuff, all the way up the ladder a little bit. And I think what that creates is if you are that person that's put in the time and you've put in the grind and you've put in, everything that it takes to get to the top, when you are there, you have the understanding and you have the compassion for the people that are on their way up. And so therefore you can lead those people with that understanding. And that's to me, that's part of just being a good leader is being compassionate and guiding those people in a good way that, like I said, makes people want to follow you, not because you're making them. They want to be what you are. They want to be where you're at. And so I think that, another thing you touched on, the chaos, I think that chaos has a lot to do. If you're going to be a leader, you cannot be someone that's affected by all the things that are going on around you. My husband actually told somebody the other day that they were asked something about me, and he said, I think that she could have been a general in the war with bullets flying by, because it is straight chaos around us at all times, especially in the rodeo industry. That is every day. It is not a 9 to 5. It is not, we can't control what happens with our horses. We can't control so many things, but you just have to learn to, like she said, see through the positive and find that way. It's kind of funny because I've been looking for a way to name like my horse herd, like my horse program. I need to come up with a name. Well, I've had an exclamation point brand for years that I didn't want to call them exclamation point horses, right? That just doesn't have a ring to it. And so the other day, of course, things are going 100 miles an hour. There's people all over the place. There's calves, there's horses. It's just a mud. And one of the girls there said, this is just straight chaos around here. And I was like, yeah, it really is. And I was like, chaos Bermuda. I don't know why I wouldn't call it that. That's what our life is. But it is learning to find the positives through that and know that all of those are just a blessing. And so as you look around and you fight through those things and continue moving forward, that is part of being a leader.
Leadership's a learned skill. So you don't have to go to university to learn leadership though. Like you don't have to go to trade school to learn leadership. Leadership's something like you could start learning from when you're 2. So it's a learned skill, so start learning. I've actually been telling a lot of people like your guys' age that reach out to me and ask about the trades and ask about getting in the trades. They ask like, what can I do to separate myself? What can I be learning, right? And I used to say things like, go learn some basic electrical theory, go learn how to run a chainsaw, go learn whatever you can learn that builds these skill sets. But now I just tell them, go learn leadership skills. Just learn leadership skills. Because if you can jump in and already be some sort of a leader, leadership and management are 2 different things. Just because somebody has a big title doesn't mean that they're a leader, right? You could be a leader in a group of everybody the same age, same title. Somebody in that group's gonna come out the leader of that group, right? So it's a learned skill. So that's what you guys should be paying attention to in this is like, what are those skill sets that make up a good leader, right? Okay, guys, behaviors. Behaviors on that same sort of thing, like we're born with the ability to choose things like how we show up every day, whether we're positive or negative. Are you gonna have a negative attitude or a positive attitude? Those are things that you can choose no matter who you are. So what are some behaviors, guys? We'll start with you again, Donnie. Behaviors that make certain people stand out, like the people that you would say, I want that person working with me or with me What are some behaviors that make them stand out?
The first thing that pops to my mind is, for one, emotional maturity and flexibility. You have to be able to control your own emotions going into any job, no matter what it is that you're doing, because you're going to have your personal life and you're going to have your work life. And either or, I mean, work could be going in a bad direction, and so you have to maintain calm at home. And then same thing, home could be a mess, and so you got to maintain calm at work, because you can't do it without both of them, right? So you got to be able to be flexible. And then, so I was a combat advisor to the Republic of Georgia over there by Russia. So I had to go over there, train their troops, and then take them to Afghanistan. And I realized really quickly that American leadership did not work for Soviet-style troops, you know. And I remember I wrote, and I still have it at home, I wrote down, you can't choose who you lead or who you follow, but you can choose how you lead and how you follow. And so you have to be extremely flexible, because you guys are going to get out in the workforce and you're going to start off with some jobs that you don't want to do, but we all had to do that. You know, you're going to learn more about yourself doing that job that you hate than you ever will doing the job that you love, because you're going to learn discipline, you know, self-respect, and you're going to learn how to manage yourself around your leadership, because you're going to have good leaders and you're going to have bad leaders, and you know, you got to be able to pick and choose what you want to take from each one of those people to advance your career later on. So flexibility is a must, and your ability to maintain calm in chaos is probably the biggest behavior that I look for.
Yeah, I think I would have to say, you know, positive attitude. So we have every morning, you know, we get the crews together and the guys together, and we have a thing called the tailboard. So, you know, it's basically you ride on the tailboard, you know, all your safety hazards you're going to have throughout the day, your general plan of what you need to do. And it seems like, you know, inevitably with, you know, like Jackie said, the chaos that happens. I don't know if you've ever seen chaos like you've seen on a line crew, because you got, you know, you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with equipment, you're dealing with high voltage, you're dealing with environmental issues, and it's so easy to get everybody, you know, up in a roar when something doesn't go like the tailboard says, you know. And it seems like every day, not every day, but a lot of times before the ink even dries on the tailboard, the plan has changed. And you just got to be able to adapt and overcome. That positive attitude is key. You know, there's a lot of days, you know, in these storms when everybody, you know, in the community is running for cover, we're the ones headed out into the storm. And it's real easy to get negative and down and not want to be out there, because there's nothing worse heading out to like areas like Wyoming when it's negative 20 and the wind's blowing 60 miles an hour and you got poles down for as far as you can see, and trying to stay positive and getting yourself out there and getting the crew out there is huge. So positivity is a huge quality to have.
Right. Well, the wait. Good barrel.
Working? All right. Yeah, just touching on what Kyle said there, you know, just the positive attitude. We get out in the work we do, and it is not ideal all the time. We've been out at 35 or 40 below zero, turn the lights on, sometimes storm conditions. Sometimes we're out there just working because that's the day that was presented to us to work, not even special storm issues. And you got to find a way to dig yourself out of bed and get to work. Talking about behaviors and stuff like that maybe I look for, especially with younger kids starting into the trades, simple punctuality and self-starters. If you can't even show up on time, we're gonna lose the interest pretty quick. You gotta have enough respect and desire to be there to show up at least on time, sort things out like that, and be willing to self-start. I say from Canada, so we work in winter quite a bit, lots of rough conditions through the winter. My son went out, worked for a buddy of mine, and fairly early in his apprenticeship, they had a snowstorm coming in, and on his own, he set his alarm, but an hour ahead of time, all the foreman's trucks were shoveled off, running, warmed up by the time they all get out. Simple little things, right? Just show enough interest in the job to keep moving forward. It doesn't take the guys that are in the trades very long to identify kids or the newcomers to it that are going to fit in and are going to put that effort forth to do what we do for a living.
I think because my job involves animals and training horses, that I can just tend to be pretty quiet and just kind of stare at the ground and just want to go back to my trailer and be really quiet. And but I'm drawn to people that are shining lights and just happy-go-lucky and very kind, and ask you how your day is going, or just really open people. And so that's a behavior I try to mimic, instead of staring at the ground and trying not to make eye contact with people so I can just go back and take care of my horse and not look at anyone. I try to remember the people that I'm drawn to and how kind and their bright light, and try to be like that, even though some days it's very hard. But I just, like I said, I just think about the people that I really admire and try to bring out that personality in myself.
It's not easy being at the end of this line because they take all the good stuff. No, but one last thing to me that didn't get touched on and is so huge to me and anyone that I'm around and want to have around is gratitude. I think when you have an attitude of gratitude and grateful for the things that you have right now in the place that you are, you're always going to look around and find somebody that has a better horse, a better rig, a better everything. I mean, I remember this. I remember being that kid that didn't have a living quarters trailer. I didn't have, fancy tack. I didn't have, the nicest horses. They were rejects off the track or so wherever we could find them. And, but I was grateful for what I had. And anytime you're grateful for the opportunities that are in front of you at that time, that brings that positive attitude out, and that brings that positive, that work ethic out. And people see that. Anytime that I have kids that come to the house and they rope, when they're grateful for that opportunity, and I can see them trying hard because they're like, man, this is amazing. I'm getting to rope here. I'm getting to do this. Those are the people that I want to give more of an opportunity, because I know they're not going to take it for granted. They're going to work their tails off. And those are the ones that are always going to succeed in anything, whether it be rodeo or, any type of business that you go into. Look at everything with a positive mindset and know that you're placed and that's part of the process. Be grateful for it.
Whatever situation you guys get yourself in, whether it's career or whatever, you want to seek out good leaders, and those are the people that you want to learn from, right? You obviously want to learn from good leaders, not bad leaders. So let's just flip this, and maybe it's a quicker go, but like, what are some behaviors that make you lose trust in people quick? Because you guys want to find people to invest your time into, right? You're always like, as a leader, you want to invest in the next person to take your spot so that you can move on to other things. That's part of being a good leader as well. So what are some of those qualities, just so they can write them down, that are like the things that make you lose trust in somebody, like immediately?
Yeah, I'd say self-respect and timeliness is a big one. Discipline, basically. So, self-respect and discipline. If a person doesn't respect themselves enough to take care of their appearance, their tools, that's a big one, their truck, then why should I trust that they're going to take care of me? And as, a leader takes care of the personnel the same way that the personnel take care of the leader. And so those are probably the two biggest things that I look for. How well are they taking care of their own issues before I decide to add more to their plate by bringing them onto the team. So, self-discipline, probably one of the biggest things that I look for.
Yeah, I would go with unmotivated. There's so much work in the trades in the line industry right now. We're constantly being preached out, to find your replacement, teach somebody that can take your spot, and we need all those types of people that are motivated to be able to fill those spots, because that leadership role, it's a lot of times where that is a role that it's not a very enjoyable position to be in. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of things that you have to do. You have to have those hard conversations with guys on your crew. So there's a lot of days where it's not a very fun position to be in. And so there's a lot of people that just don't even want to step into a foreman position or a superintendent, So, but we just need motivated. So unmotivated guys on the crew that are just there to get a paycheck. think that'd be mine.
Right? One of the things that really turns me off when we got young guys coming through our trade and into the work is no follow through. If you've told me you were going to complete a task and just can't get around to it, and don't have the desire to get around to it. I mean, if I've told you I'm going to get something done, I'll die on that hill before I let it go on its own, right? That's one for me right away. If you made a commitment, I've got expectations as the crew lead for that to happen.
Rodeo, I would say it's definitely controlling your emotions. At y'all's age, man, did I throw some fits at the trailer, kick buckets. I used to have this trailer where I had a dent in the door because I took my bridle and hit the trailer with it, and then I had to look at that dent and remind myself of what a baby fit I threw for years until I got rid of that trailer. But I will never forget watching someone throw a fit after a bad run. Like threw stuff, and it was like in front of the rodeo crowd. And I just was like, oh my gosh, that's what I have looked like before. And I never did it again until like I got in the trailer by myself. No, just kidding. But yeah, just controlling your emotions and do not let them overwhelm you to self-sabotage, yourself and make yourself feel bad, or to take your anger out on your horse. Ugh, that's awful. And yeah, I have no respect for that. And I've been there at y'all's age. I've jerked on my horse in the alleyway when I was mad and my ego got the best of me. And then later on, I'm like, I think I made my horse do that. That was my fault. So controlling your emotions. I like the people, like talking about people that I look up to and they're shining light. Coleman Proctor. Who doesn't want to be the guy or girl with a smile on their face no matter what happens? And again, those are the kind of people I want to be like.
To touch on that, because that is a huge one for me. I mean, I respect young kids more when they have a bad run and I can see that they have controlled their emotions than I do somebody that is expected to win, has a bad run, and throws a fit. One of my favorite quotes, one of the greatest horsemen in the world, Ian Francis, he had a quote, and he said, and y'all write this down because this is a good one. He said, "Violence begins where knowledge ends." And that is so true, because when we throw a fit, and I know this is out of the, the workforce in a way, but in rodeo, when we don't know how to do something, that's when we get angry, right? And that's when you take it out on your animal. So just remember that when you go to throw a fit, it's because you haven't developed enough to go further than that, or teach that horse better, or develop in your roping. So that always comes back to you, and that kind of falls back on my other thing that I think that, bothers me a little bit is excuses. Take accountability. Take accountability for what you do in that arena, but most important, what you do out of that arena. How did you prepare? If you went and you weren't successful, you need to take accountability. Don't give me an excuse. What did you do that week before, that week prior? Did you really focus on your practice runs? Did you really try to get better and then let that go? And so excuses are a big one to me, because anytime you have an excuse, I can find 10 people, not very far, that could have the same exact excuse, even worse than your situation. And they don't have that excuse, and they will be the ones that prevail. So no excuses about anything, no situation. Figure a way out of it. That positive mentality, that's going to take you a long way.
So cool, because like everything these ladies are saying directly translates to the workforce and career as well. Like they're the exact same thing. It is their career, but like it works well in industry as well. Again, combat veteran, couple guys who work in intense, high energy work that is like life or death, and world champions. So like this next question about working under pressure. And so like when the pressure is high, guys, the day is long, things aren't going right. What are some tactics that help get you through stuff like that? Help you turn that chaos into calm?
Okay. Not to get too hippie here, but the only thing that anybody in this entire room on this planet can control is your breath. That's the only thing in the world that you can actually control in real time, is how you're breathing. So for me, and like, I mean, I teach this to my kids, I teach it to the students here, I taught it to all my Marines. You have to learn how to be able to control yourself, and that all starts with just taking a deep breath and a longer exhale. That right there can with practice, of course, can bring you back to focus. That's been my number one thing, is just, not only being able to control it at the moment, but also knowing what the big picture is too. So, I mean, one reason I think why veterans do so well in this trade is because this trade is very similar to combat operations in that it's goal-oriented. It's not only goal-oriented, but it's specific goal-oriented. A journeyman lineman doesn't go and do the same thing for 8 hours a day. He does a huge, very diverse, list of tasks. And it's usually under duress or under pressure, or under a timeline. There's a lot of people waiting on him, so there's a lot of stress there. And in the military, it's the same way. Combat operations are exactly the same thing. There's a very specific goal that you have to accomplish, and there's a lot of things coming at you. So you have to, be able to know when you're starting to lose your control and be able to, bring yourself back to center. Because if you can't put yourself in check, then how are you going to put your team in check? But number one, control your breathing. Control how this body that you're stuck in is performing in that moment, and you'll realize that once you can control that emotion, that your brain starts functioning a little bit better, and you'll find the way out, especially if you know what the big picture is. So think about what your mission is, regardless of what job you have. Think about what the big picture is, what the end goal is, and begin with that in mind. And then when you do get thrown into chaos, calm yourself down, think about what that main objective is, and then get back after it.
I almost had to jump in there, stop him because he was getting on the mind. I definitely think you have to think things through from the beginning to the end. You got to have a plan, right? Because inevitably in the line trade, something's going to go wrong, and it's going to go wrong bad. So if you haven't thought things through from the beginning all the way to the end, when that bad thing happens, you're not going to be prepared, and you're not going to be able to handle that situation mentally, physically, whatever it may be. But if you got a plan and it turns into more like a muscle memory, you're going to be able to get through those intense situations that don't always, fall into place like you had them pictured. It's similar to everything, you guys deal with in the arena, because you guys, it very rarely goes as planned, because you're dealing with, like I said before, humans, animals, ground conditions, whatever it may be. So if you have a plan from the beginning to the end, and you come across something that isn't, quite into the plan that you had, you're able to overcome that and get back in control of it.
Right. I think we're kind of all heading down the same lane here. Some commonalities in it. In our industry and in the rodeo, I rode bulls for a lot of years. And between that and doing the power line stuff that we do, Energized work, we're getting dropped onto Energized 500,000 volt lines with helicopters and going to work. We work in pressure scenarios every day. And we don't always know how the day is going to go. So I think on the front end of that, just preparation is what comes to key. I mean, we have a work plan, but whether it's physical preparation, training, your tooling, attention to detail, that sort of stuff, just preparation in general is what's going to get you through the tough times, because you've already thought it out in your mind. You're fully prepared for anything that's going to throw at you. I'm going back quite a few years, but you cowboy kids, you guys heard of Gary LeFew, right? The old bull rider from 1970 world champion. Over 30 years ago, I went to his school, and then had a chance 20 years after that to take my kid to it as well. He's got a saying on his wall there. It's the 7 Ps. That's proper prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. And that's about as simple as it can be, right? If you got a plan, if you've done the work ahead of time, the little things that jump in front of you when you're competing or in life in general, you're just better prepared for it.
What I've noticed when I'm under pressure, I compete the best when I am just grateful to be there. I don't put a bunch of pressure on myself, and I go in with no expectations, which I'm not a goal setter. I don't really write down my goals. I definitely do the 7 Ps, and I'm very prepared. but I think probably when I control my breathing and I just relax and I almost tell myself like, hey, if I don't do good tomorrow, I'm still gonna get up, I'm gonna ride my horses, I'm gonna work hard at it. If I win tomorrow, I'm still gonna get up, ride my horses, work at it. And so I've done the best by not putting so much pressure on myself and not putting expectations on myself to just perform and to be perfect. If I just go out there and make my run and do my job, I'm not competing against anybody else but myself, then it seems like that's when I do the best and I win for myself that day.
Well, I think that the definition of pressure, even among this panel, is two totally different things. I mean, when these guys are under pressure, you know, people's lives are at stake, is usually a negative situation when they get under intense pressure. For us, pressure is a privilege. That means we're probably doing really well at something. We're in a good situation. We're fixing to win a lot of money. You know, we've prepared and put ourselves into this situation where it's win or lose, right? That's a good thing. And so pressure for me, same as Jordon talked about, and the only thing that I would say that I have done is the breathing. I will breathe. When I've gotten into these situations where there's a lot of money on the line, you know, I'm fixing to run one breakaway calf for $1 million. I'm human. My heart goes to racing, and it's a lot of pressure right there. And that is the only thing that I've noticed is I read some sports books and it talked about the breathing, and to get the breathing and to feel my heart rate actually slow back down is kind of the physical thing that I feel like you can control, and the only thing you can control besides your preparation. And so this is going to seem silly, but the only thing that I've said in the rodeo world, totally different than these guys, in the rodeo world is, I'm really not that big of a deal. This isn't that big of a deal, right? If I go out here and I fall off my horse today in front of all these people, they're going to probably forget about it in no time. And the world's going to go on, and tomorrow everybody's going to get up and go about their jobs and do all this stuff. And it really isn't that big of a deal. So what I can do is control my preparation. I control what goes on, what I have done to prepare for that moment and to get myself in that situation. And other than that, it's cool that I'm here. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy to be doing what I'm doing and getting to see the things that I've done and you know, the places the rope has taken me. And so I think when you look at it like that it really doesn't matter, and the world's going to rock on whether you win or lose, right? Mm-hmm. So that kind of takes the pressure off of me.
I want to talk about reputation, and maybe a term you guys will understand better than reputation is your personal brand. And that's what's said in the rooms, what's said about you in the rooms that you're not in. Is it good? Is it bad? What's said in rooms when you're not in them can either open doors or close doors for you. So give me a story, if you've got one, guys, of a time when your reputation helped open a door for you, and then describe a little bit about the importance of reputation.
Oh, yeah, let's put me on the spot there, huh? A time that my reputation helped me out,
Or didn't.
or didn't.
Share the story.
Oh yeah, I give you a perfect example. I don't drink. I haven't drank in 15 years, and that's a personal decision because I'm a mess when I do drink. But when I went in the Marine Corps, I really wanted to try out for like reconnaissance, or at the time they busted it. They changed it into 3 different jobs. There was like Foreign Military Training Unit, MARSOC, and reconnaissance. And I had all the skill sets. I had all the schools to get into it. But when I was a young man, when I was 25 as a sergeant, I was on recruiting duty and I did not want to be there. The Marine Corps made me go to it, and I got into a little bit of trouble. Nothing major, just some drinking issues, no DUIs or anything like that, but enough to have it on my record. And I think I was 28. I just picked up staff sergeant, and I had applied again to the Foreign Military Training Unit. And the guy told me, after looking at my resume, like I had everything that I needed to get into that position. However, I put like an asterisk on the police report, asked me about this. And I told him, hey, this is, minor things. I think I'm past that now. But I didn't get accepted for the simple fact that if they were to send me to Guatemala to train their military for 6 months and they loved me and they wanted to take me out drinking, who's going to say that I'm not going to go out and get in trouble in Guatemala? And, I mean, that was a really hard pill for me to swallow for the rest of my career, that I didn't get to go into that because of how I acted when I was younger. So, yeah, your reputation is going to follow you everywhere. And that's what I love about this job, too. It's going to beat you to the next job site. However you act during your apprenticeship, what we tell our students here at the LazyQ Line School is that you have to be prepared to represent the LazyQ Line School for your entire career, because whether you're a foreman or a superintendent or even a vice president someday, somebody is going to be in a room that you're not in and talking about something you did, good or bad, and they're going to say, oh, well, that's a LazyQ guy. And so, we try to set these guys up from the beginning of, hey, look, you have to represent this school because it's going to help us to be able to get the next class of graduates out into the workforce. And if you're out there messing up your reputation, you're essentially messing up ours as well. So, yeah, put a lot of thought into your reputation and how that looks for your future, for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy in the line trade how far your reputation goes and how fast it follows you. I know Ryan can attest to this. If you want to get a rumor started or a reputation following you around, just tell a lineman. They're worse than Facebook. They talk more than I don't know any person else in the world. But I think your reputation, that I can go back to where my reputation has actually put me here where I'm at today is we had a project out in Hawaii and we were out there for 2 years and it was all helicopter work, and I got great opportunities to work with some top-notch linemen out there, and it just happened to be that one of the linemen that I was with out there that was actually working underneath me, he knew Carl Studer, and I was getting ready to finish up out in Hawaii, and I had island fever, horrible. I wanted to get back home, and so I was talking to him. He said, "Hey, give Carl Studer a call. They got a bunch of work out in Nevada. They got a big 345 line going, and they're needing some help." And I think if my reputation wouldn't have been where it was at that point, I wouldn't be up here today. It's pretty humbling to be up here and be in front of you, and I know Tyrell, he's out there sitting at the table. He's one of the Quanta elites too, and it's pretty humbling to be on that Quanta elite team, and you think about it every day. They gave us a truck when they gave us that award, and every day you get in that truck, it has that Quanta elite sticker on the side of it. It's pretty humbling, and I know that without having that positive reputation to follow in the end, I wouldn't be here today. So it can definitely haunt you, or it can definitely help you.
Yeah, 100%, especially in this trade. It's ruthless, honestly. Pretty small group, and your reputation will beat you before you show up at your next job. They'll know who you are, where you've been, and what you've done. So up to you kind of which version of yourself you want to beat you there. My son went to work for a buddy of mine, province over. Haven't worked there in 15 years. Phoned a buddy and said, "Hey, can you give this kid a chance?" And he showed up there about a month into it. They all said, "Hey, you're Rob's kid, right?" I mean, like the reputation's around, the trade's small, and anything you've done positive will show up. It'll meet you there, just as well as anything negative. You get hard to hire if you have a negative reputation that's beating you there, right? So.
My main job is training horses and selling them. And just like they were talking about with the linemen, the horse industry is so small. And if you lie or, don't disclose information or make any bad business deals in the horse industry, it will follow you everywhere. And that's how I feed my family. And so I have to have a good reputation, that people can trust me, that I will help people after they buy my horses, because when they succeed on my horses, then I succeed for the next person to want to buy another horse from me. And so that means everything. Also, I have had big businesses in the horse industry, Classic Equine, Quanta. Classic Equine has been with me since I was 17 years old. Talk about pressure to not do something stupid as a kid when you have these big companies like this on your shirt, that you have to make good decisions and just have people proud of you. And it's a lot of pressure, but that's why they believe in you, and they believe in you to make good decisions, and it's good. You'll be happy that you made those good decisions later in life.
I second what Jordan says about, a big part of your reputation falls back to sponsors. And I think that, unless your family is just extremely independently wealthy, it takes other people helping you in this industry to make it. I mean, I know I couldn't go up and down the road if I didn't have the help of these sponsors. It means the world to me. And anytime that you do anything bad, or you don't take care of those sponsors, or you don't represent their company the way that you should, they're going to pull the plug. And that is detrimental to a rodeo career. You have to have people that are willing to be behind you. You support them, they support you, and your reputation rides on that. And I know, so it's not really technically just one story, but it's just in general that has carried over through my entire career. I have 2 companies that I've been with 20 plus years. That's kind of aging me, but I have been with them 20 plus years. So that's to me, I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I can to have those companies for that long. But I'd say like a reputation story. When I was just out of college, I got to go work at a horse training place in Abilene, and I got to ride a bunch of really nice horses. And as I was there, I got the reputation. People would always joke that, like, that girl will outwork most men. And I was so proud of that. And I would day in, day out, I would work at it. And I mean, I would be out there when everybody else was watching football on Sundays. I'd be at the arena tracking on colts. I mean, just doing everything I could to be one step ahead. And so when I branched out, it was one of the scariest times in my life when I went off by myself. I didn't have anything. I mean, like nothing. And I wanted to go make a name for myself, and I branched out on my own. And it didn't take very long when I separated myself because of that reputation. Before long, I was getting to ride NFR guys' horses as outside horses. And to me, that was, being a 20-something-year-old girl, that just didn't happen. I got to watch, calf horses I rode go on and, be in the running. They go straight from my house, go to Houston, go on to the NFR that year. And that to me was so rewarding, but it was having that reputation. Everybody said, well, we've heard that you'll take care of them. You're going to put in the time. It's not that we're going to send them to you and you're going to ride them a few days a week. And I wouldn't. I was going to go above and beyond. And that reputation is what gave me a chance to start and have my own name and continue with my career. So.
Okay, we're going to talk about communication a bit. I don't think you can be a good leader and not be a good communicator. So if you're planning on being a good leader, you should probably learn some communication skills. And communication is such a big, broad topic. One thing I have noticed, and not gonna knock on you guys, but I got kids your guys' age. We have all of the tools available to us right now and today to be a good communicator. Like, tools isn't the problem. It's the tools are there. We can text, we can DM, we can do a lot of different things to communicate a message, right? We have the tools. Tools isn't the problem, it's using them. And I'm finding, especially like with my kids, I was also an instructor here at the LazyQ Line School for a couple years. I've dealt with people your age. Communication's not something you're typically good at right now. I don't know what it is, but you're not. So please take that like just as constructive criticism, not as criticism. But like, learn these skills, learn how to be a good communicator. What is the importance of being a good communicator, and maybe like some tips you guys got on communication, because it is a big topic.
Yeah, nonverbal communication is a big part of communication. I think I read somewhere that it makes up like 80% of the message that you're getting across. And what is it, like fluctuation, how you say it, and then what you say is a very small part of that. But the nonverbal part is a really big deal. Like how how your body reacts to either getting told you did a good job, or worse, when you did a bad job. Nonverbal communication goes a very long way, especially with young kids too. I see that you get nervous and you start moving your body around or whatever, and that shows a lack of self-discipline. And that's to be another thing that they're going to add on to it when they're kind of harping on you for not doing as good of a job as you could, or they're trying to make you better, I suppose. But yeah, nonverbal communication is a really big thing. You go on YouTube and find some videos, spend an hour, and listen to an expert talk about the importance of which direction your feet are facing when you're having a conversation with people. It's those small, tiny little things that'll go a really long way. I really hope that's not my phone. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to call anybody out, but my phone's over there. And then as far as actual communication goes, a lot of preparation and knowing what it is that you're going to be talking about. Do your homework before you get up and start addressing your people about what it is that you want to talk to them about. Make sure that you know all those points and really think about the questions that you might be asked and have answers prepared for that. But just preparation is a big part of communication. And again, nonverbal communication goes a very, very, very long way.
Yeah, so I think the communication, there's two different sides of it, right? You can be clear in your communication, you can be really clear. And in the line industry, we can't just be clear. We've got to be really clear. It's got to be 100% understood what's going on. And I think, at your age, if you can start building that trait right now to communicate and to get that communication line flowing to where it's really clear, it's just going to help you, for the rest of your life. There's lots of instances, on the cruise where something was communicated and it may have been twisted just a little bit. Well, a little bit, when you go up in the air and you're dealing with electricity, that the only thing it wants to do is it wants to kill you, or it wants to go to ground. And if you're not 100% clear, really clear, things can go south in a hurry. So we, are constantly communicating in the line industry, and we do a lot of three-way communicating, repeat it back. And what that does when you repeat it back, it makes you understand that what you told somebody, they're repeating it back. And if you hear it exactly how you had it in your mind, how you said it, then you can be 100% confident that your communication was direct and it was communicated in the proper way. So just think about that when you're communicating. Try to be really clear, and that'll help build that trait, like I said.
Yeah, definitely different kinds of communication, right? Sitting up here is not really my favorite spot, honestly. And sitting next to these ladies that are very well spoken, and public speaking. When I took this job, they asked me how I felt about public speaking or in front of a crowd, and not really that into it, actually. You deal with small crews and doing stuff when we're out in the field working, which came easy, and the communication was different versus sitting up here and communicating to a crowd. We're communicating delicate information, stuff like when we're building power lines and doing the energized side of things that we deal with. Attention to detail and getting your plan across is critical to survival. Quite literally, when we fail, it's catastrophic. So we need to have a good plan. We need to be able to communicate it, and the guys in the field need to be able to absorb the information you're giving them.
I have a lot of people message me on Facebook or come up to me and ask if I take interns in to work for me. And I don't very often, but if you guys were to do that to me, I would want you to come up to me, your shoulders back, stood up straight, look me in the eye, shake my hand, yes ma'am, no ma'am. Just have confidence and just look like you're a hard worker. And then in nonverbal communication, I did have an intern one time from Australia, and she was so grateful for the opportunity. And she was actually the first intern I'd ever had, and that's probably why I haven't had one since. But she literally, the first day she was there, she wrote down everything I did. We didn't even really talk very much, but she watched everything I did. She wrote it down, even to which horse I fed first, the order of horses that I caught and rode. And the next morning when we went to work, she had already fed all of my horses exactly how I did the day before. She had already caught all of my horses and tied them up exactly the way I did before. And to be honest, I don't want to communicate with you very much. I want you to watch and learn, but then come up to me and look me in the eye and shake my hand. And just so that those kind of things, just being confident and then just paying attention to what somebody's doing so somebody doesn't have to communicate with you every second of the day. I already have a 7-year-old that I have to do that with.
I think that one thing that's important to understand is that none of us, very few people, I think, naturally have that comfortable position in front of a camera. We all get up there for the first time. We're all nervous. It's very hard to have a camera on you, right? And communicate clearly. So just know you're not alone. Everybody feels the way you do. And it's kind of that fake it till you make it kind of thing. Do it anyways. Do it uncomfortable. Look that person in the eye, even if you're uncomfortable with it. Like she said, shoulders back. Be confident. Just ooze confidence from yourself. You know, in the rodeo side of things, very different, I think, from what these guys have, but also the same. You're going to have a lot of different type of communication that you're going to have to do. The higher you get in the rodeo world, you're going to have employees, you're going to have drivers, you're going to have people come, at home taking care of your animals. Obviously, communication on what your animals need, the care that they need, and the way you want it done is very important, right? Also, communicating with sponsors. Again, that comes with that confidence. That gratitude and confidence, if you can ooze that through your speaking, is huge. And the first time that you win something big and you get put in front of that camera on the Cowboy Channel and Katie Lucas asks you a question, I want you to look at her, speak clearly, and pretend like you are as confident as you can be. Because you know what? When you do that and you've won something and you present yourself good and someone sees that, boom, there comes your next sponsor opportunity, right? They're gonna be like, that kid presents himself really well. So that's all gonna tie in all throughout the Western industry and what you're gonna do in life. So be confident and fake it till you make it.
Got a really good book for you, and before you roll your eyes, I listen to books. I don't read books with my eyes. I read with my ears. So take it or leave it, whatever you want to do with this. Maybe you read it, maybe you don't. It's really, really good. It's really dry. It's really boring. And it's written by Larry King. You probably don't even know who Larry King is, but he is a fantastic interviewer, one of the best there ever was. And he wrote this book called How to Talk to Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere. It's super tactical. It's super thin. I highly recommend it to everybody to read it. It's just about communication. It's very tactful. Okay, couple more. How can young people speak up without being disrespectful? I know this is like lots of young people get onto a job site, especially for the first time, and they don't want to say anything or shy or timid because they don't want to say anything that's disrespectful. They don't want to ask the wrong question, get yelled at, da-da-da-da. So what kind of advice do you have around navigating that, like, first on scene, kind of first on job person? What they can do to come up to a leader or somebody, just anybody above them that's been there for a while, respectfully, and ask the questions they need to ask.
Yeah, I'd say going back to what I was saying earlier, know what your objective is when you go up to ask those questions. So, like when I was a groundman in the Pacific Northwest, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the hierarchy of a line crew, but a groundman is like a nobody, and but I still had a lot of work to do. And I remember we were changing out a pole in I think northeast Portland. And I got there first, and I went to the JL and asked them, "Hey, what are we doing? Where's this?" And I asked a lot of questions about where's the pole going, how deep does it need to be, this, that, and the other. So that I could go back to my truck and get everything prepared to do that job. And I remember when I first approached the Journeyman and I asked him, "Hey, what are we doing?" And he treated me like a child because I'm just a groundman, and kind of gave me a little bit of guff. And I just, I didn't smile. I didn't let it affect me. And I just asked him, well, I need to know where all this stuff is at so that I know what I need to do. And once he realized that I was thinking several steps ahead versus just reacting, he warmed up to me. I never had an issue with that gentleman since. So really just show that you understand the intent of what it is that you are asking questions about, or that you have an issue with that you need to bring up with your boss, your superior, your parents, whatever it might be, and show that you've thought about different courses of action that you can take to rectify that when you're bringing that up. That, I think, goes a long ways.
Read it again. saw a squirrel and I'm getting off now, so.
How can they approach anybody on a job site if they're like new to the job site or just new to a career? It doesn't even have to be trades work. This could really transcend across careers, any career. But like, how can they ask questions, it be in a respectful way and in a non-disrespectful way? Just some tactics around that.
Yeah, so I think it goes back, we talked about it a little bit, the body posture, right? How you come up and present a question. There's always, two ways to ask a question. You can ask it in a way to where it's, maybe aggressive or condescending, or, makes you look like you're maybe questioning what they're doing. But if you can go up to them and ask the question to where it's more of a way that can, you're trying to tell them that you want to better yourself, or you want to be able to improve the situation that you're in, and not just, questioning what's going on at that moment. And I think that's big with us, because you talk about groundmen, and you can almost hear their knees knocking together when they come up to a GF or foreman and have to ask a question, because I'll be honest with you, linemen are probably some of the rudest and meanest individuals there can be, and there's a reason behind it, right? I mean, it's not that we want to, make you, when you come up and ask a question, want to belittle you. It's because it goes back to the communication side of it. If it's not completely clear and the objective that you're trying to get out of the question that's being asked, there's so many different ways that it can go, and if it doesn't go in a good way, the only other way is really bad. So I think just having that confidence and knowing what you're asking and present in a way that isn't going to be in a disrespectful way.
Yeah, agreed. Go straight to the point. Honestly, if you got a serious question that's going to affect or better your day, go straight to it and ask the question and absorb the information you get back. In the trades, doing what we do, I really like teaching the young guys and the apprentice stuff. That was one of the favorite things when I was on the tools, is just passing the craft on, passing the trade on. So if you're asking legitimate questions and interest in what we're doing and absorbing the information, they'll keep sharing that stuff with you. Had several young apprentices and stuff, and you'll offer them a tip, and they're like, well, I sort of like doing it this way. So pretty soon the tips dry up, right? If you're not willing to absorb the information, if you're smarter than the tradesman that's teaching you or training you, eventually you're going to run into a roadblock. But stay open-minded, go straight to the questions you want to ask, and keep trying to further yourself.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between asking a question when you're confused or you really want to know, or you're asking a question and you're asking the question because you weren't listening beforehand. Kind of like I said, the girl that just watched everything I did and just learned and did it the next day. So there's nothing wrong with asking questions, especially people that come and ride with me. I would much rather them, talk to me and be asking questions than just babbling on and on and on about things. Like they're there to learn, and I learn and get, and I learn how to tell them more by their questions. So again, like if you're nervous to ask a question, it might be because you weren't listening beforehand, but then also don't ever feel embarrassed to ask a question if you're really confused.
Yeah, I think that, for anyone, especially these days, time is so valuable. And so I translated into like the clinics or, students at a clinic wanting to ask the question. And I think that we can tell who was listening and trying to absorb what we're saying. So it boils down to the sincerity of the question. Are you truly confused because I didn't communicate that well? Okay, then I will spend all day trying to figure out 100 different ways to get through to you. Do I know that you weren't really absorbing this and you're probably not fully invested into it and you're really just asking a question now to be seen and heard? I'm probably not going to put that much into it. It's going to be a little bit disrespectful. So it's really the sincerity of the question. I will never not respond or spend all my time if I truly think it's something that you're really trying to get. So I never have a problem with that. I start all of my clinics off with, please ask questions, because sometimes the things that come out of my mouth aren't coming out like I think they are, right? So if you're confused about something and truly confused about something, probably somebody else is also. So if you sincerely ask me a question, then I can recover that topic again and hopefully get through to everyone. So.
Okay, last question for you guys. If I could go back and give myself some advice, leaving high school, entering the career, I'd be like, okay, what would I say to myself? I think I'd tell myself to work on these skills that I can work on at that time. All these other skills in the workforce come with learning the job or going to school or whatever. But the things that you can control, the things that you can work on immediately, no matter who you are, because you're born with the ability to choose this. Am I gonna show up with a good work ethic? You know, am I gonna work hard? And am I gonna show up with a good attitude? You know, be positive versus negative. Those are things you can work on immediately. So I think if I was to go back, I'd say, well, what kind of person do you wanna be at this point in life, at 45? What kind of person do you wanna be? Do you want to be someone who's known as, you know, a positive person, all these other things? Figure out what those are and start working towards that now, because it comes quick. So best piece of advice you could give yourself, these guys entering it.
Absolutely, and I know that you mentioned it earlier, and I hope I wouldn't take it from you, but gratitude. If you write down 3 things you're grateful for every day, you do that for 30 days. In 30 days, you're going to be unrecognizable. If I would have started doing that when I was your age, I don't know where I'd be today. I only started doing that like maybe 10 years ago, and it has changed everything, literally everything. Have a little bit of gratitude. You know, every morning or every night, just write down 3 things you're grateful for. Everybody has 3 things that you're grateful for. I'm sure somebody fed you, or you've got clothes on your body, or shoes on your feet, or a roof over your head. You can find something to be grateful for, and that's a skill and a habit, and the more you develop it, the more you're going to find things to be grateful for, and you're going to be a more positive person. You're going to be a more likable person to be around. And if I could have gone and done that when I was younger, I didn't really think about that until I was in my 30s. But with my kids, like I almost make them do it every day. You know, what are the 3 things that you're grateful for? Think about that now. If I could go back to when I was your age, that's what I would do.
Yeah, I think mine would be, you know, be a leader now. You know, we have all different steps as a lineman. You know, we've already talked about it. You know, you start out as a groundman, then you go to the apprenticeship, and then you know, you're journeyman lineman, then foreman, on and on. But we need leaders in every one of those positions. Just because you're a groundman doesn't mean that you can't be a leader, right? Because there's leadership roles that, even as low as the groundmen are on the totem pole, there's leadership roles that they can help all the other groundmen around them, and the more that we can help each other, the better the industry is going to be. And it just goes all the way up to the lineman and the foreman. You know, that leadership, if you start now trying to be a leader, that's just going to progress you faster and above everybody else that's around you. And it's getting, you know, pretty competitive in the trade industry. As far as the leadership side goes, there's lots of workers, but as far as the leadership roles go, it's really competitive. And if you have that leadership role, that's going to accelerate you above and beyond, and speed your career up, and give you those opportunities that, you know, you could only dream of. So
I'd go back a little bit earlier and maybe ask myself what I really want to do for a living. Work consumes your life. It's how we survive. And I had a lot of crappy jobs before I got to the point I'm at now, building power lines. Fortunate to find a trade that I really enjoy, and 28 years into it, I still like what I do for a living. Also super fortunate that it pays really well, right? I mean, it's provided a pretty good life for my wife and my kids. We rodeoed all the way through it and did a bunch of cool stuff while they were growing up. So they've kind of moved off, but when I say going back, I'd try and figure out what I want to do earlier on in life. I say waking up and doing a job you enjoy is way better than one you hate.
So I'm like Michael Jordan's kid of barrel racing. My mom was a 4-time world champion. I knew nothing other than the backseat of a truck going to rodeos and horses. You know, horses put food on the table. When I grow up and now I'm doing that for my daughter. And I was just born and raised to do this, and it was my life. I never had another job. My mom always joked that she wished she would have made me be a waitress or something, just so I should have done something else. And I do agree with that. But again, work consumes you. And I for years, especially when you're a world champion, and then the next year you're not a world champion again. Or the next day, actually, after they tell you you're the world champion, then the next day you're not the world champion anymore. You have to start all over again. And you figure that out pretty quickly. And so what I've learned in the last few years is I wish in high school that I would have not consumed my life so much with how I did in the arena, that I was more than my last run. The last few years I've started reading the Bible, got very involved in church. I've been serving other people than myself. And so if I can tell you to do anything is remember other people. Remember that life isn't just about how you do in the arena, and that there's a lot of other big issues in the world, and care for other people. Rodeo is so selfish, and you can get so self-centered about winning and doing good for yourself, and don't forget about being kind and the people around you.
Follow, Jordan. Thanks for that. Some things I think I did really well, and some things I think I did terribly throughout, my lifetime. I would say number one thing is protect your name and your reputation. If you start protecting your name and your reputation, what I'm saying by saying that is we're not asking you to be perfect. Don't put the pressure on yourself to be perfect. We're all going to stumble and fail and have some hard times. Just start making decisions, intentional decisions now at your age that are reflective with integrity. Make those decisions with integrity in all places of your life. Are you making the decision because it's the right thing to do? And you know that in your heart. And so protect your name and your reputation, because once it gets tarnished, it is a long, hard road to get that thing polished off again. And that is the one thing you have, is your name. And then second thing I would say, if you're gonna do it, do it. Do it all in. Don't leave one stone left unturned. Turn them all over. If you have a passion about something, go at it with everything, and know that you either wanted to do that for the rest of your life or you didn't. But give it all you have. Don't always look back and wonder what could have been or ifs or any of that. Give it everything you have right now.
Do you guys have any questions for these guys?
What do you see in these people, on your podcast and whatnot, that you see that makes them stand out?
When I was a kid, I was the shyest kid in school. I couldn't introduce myself, I couldn't introduce my parents to my teacher. I would hid behind my parents. This is like grade 3, grade 4. I was super shy. My whole entire life, I've had to step into the uncomfortable constantly to do this. Like I was just saying, I emceed a big event in Vegas. This big event it's called the President's Meeting. All of the presidents and vice presidents for Quanta operating companies gather every year in Vegas for a big meeting. So this is 500 of the top executives with this organization. and it's pretty intimidating. I got to stand up on stage now and MC. So to get from that shy kid to this part, I had to step into the uncomfortable and take action on things. You have to do things. So you have to take action on these things. So all of these people that we're talking about or you're talking about, they're just people that took action on the uncomfortable and put themselves again and again in position to improve, learn, do it. If they made mistakes, got better. It's like a continually trying to get better thing for me. That's what I'd say. They're just people who continually try to do better and get better.
I'll add to kind of the Rocker Steiner question somewhat. There's been a lot more personalities show up in the rodeo, and they use social media for a platform to become that personality, to make money, to be more in the spotlight. And they do bring people to the sport of rodeo. I appreciate them. I like people with personality. But that comes with scrutiny. That comes that, the more he posts on social media, the more he has to put up with that stuff, the more that's more stuff that he has to shut down to be able to go do his job. I learned a little bit about that this year with being the barrel racing commentator at the NFR this year. Whew, I decided I don't really like barrel racers that much. And I know my voice is annoying. You don't have to tell me. So again, when you put yourself out there to do bigger, brighter things, then you have to deal with more crap. So it all is how confident you are and how much you want to put up with. So you just have to decide what kind of person you are. You can be a personality without all of that stuff also. So just be whoever you want to be.
Add just a little bit to that too, along that same lines, be who you want to be. It's in the line industry, there's all kinds of ways to do things. And as you're growing and maturing, take those little things that you like about an individual and take the things that you don't like about them and take those good things and mold yourself into that. You can be your own person, but grab those good things that you're seeing individuals do and make that, yourself. Maybe at some point in your life, or, when you're first starting out, you can't, like take example for groundmen or apprentices, they don't have a whole lot of say, but, they can remember those things that they like about it, and the individuals that they are working with, and they can take that. And as soon as they top out as a journeyman lineman, you can go and do whatever you want to do, and, throughout the whole world, but take those good things and create your own individual way.
This content is completely free, all right? The only thing I'm asking you for is to hit that subscribe button. And I know it's cheesy, I know it's corny, I know every YouTuber asks you to hit that button and you're probably sick and tired of it. But if you like the show and you want to see the show grow, this is the way I prove to the people in charge that it's worth investing in. So it's pretty simple, and it's the price you can pay for me. It's no money, it's just a subscribe. Please hit the subscribe, and I appreciate the heck out of you for it.